Hey there. Ready to deep dive into some serious data security for your Jira setup? You specifically wanted the lowdown on this tool called PII Protection for Jira
Yeah.
by Polymetis Apps, and let me tell you, after going through the material, I get why it caught your eye.
It's something every Jira user needs to have on their radar, you know? You wouldn't believe how many organizations don't realize how exposed their sensitive info is until it's too late.
No kidding. So for our listeners who are just tuning in, PII Protection for Jira is like that extra lock on your front door. But for all the sensitive data living in your Jira Cloud instance, we're talking PII, PHI, financial stuff, anything you really don't want floating around if there
Right.
was ever a breach.
And the great thing is it acts as that, like continuous safety net, scanning everything, issues, comments, descriptions, even those custom fields you've probably got set up. It's like having a 24/7 security guard for your data.
Okay, that's reassuring, especially with those horror stories you hear about data breaches costing companies millions. Nobody wants to be that cautionary tale. But beyond avoiding disaster, what I find really compelling is this tool's cloud-fortified certification. That's like the gold standard from Atlassian, right?
Exactly. That means you can breathe easier knowing your data is in good hands.
That peace of mind is invaluable, especially with data privacy regulations getting stricter all the time. Does this tool actually make compliance less of a headache?
It absolutely does. Instead of manually trying to track down every instance of sensitive information, PII Protection does the heavy lifting for you. It helps you stay one step ahead of whichever regulations keep you up at night. Think of it this way. This tool could be the difference between breezing through your next security audit and facing a mountain of paperwork and potential fines.
Okay, now you're talking my language. No one wants to deal with that kind of stress. But I have to ask, how does it actually work? It almost sounds too good to be true.
The magic lies in its automated scanning. PII Protection constantly patrols your Jira instance, analyzing everything for sensitive information.
So it's like always on, even when I'm off catching some Z's.
You got it.
Hey,
It's the tireless guardian you always wished you had for your data. But here's what makes it really powerful. You get to customize what it looks for. Credit cards, passwords, social security numbers, you name it.
okay, that customization sounds promising, but how much work is it to actually set up? Can you walk me through a real example?
Let's say you're in healthcare, dealing with a lot of patient data. You'd create a custom data profile. Think of it like setting up your own custom security alarm. You tell PII Protection exactly what a patient record number looks like, and boom, it's watching for that specific info.
So it's not just relying on some generic algorithm that might miss things.
Exactly. It becomes hyper-focused on the data that matters most to you, reducing false alarms and ensuring you're only alerted when there's a real potential risk. Now, you're probably wondering, with all this scanning going on, what about my data leaving my Jira instance? That's a concern I hear a lot.
That's a huge concern for me too. Data egress is a big deal.
And rightfully so. Polymetis, the company behind PII Protection, gets it. They've gone to great lengths to be transparent about their approach. All the scanning happens within Atlassian's secure infrastructure. Think of it like your data staying on lockdown within Fort Knox. It doesn't just wander off for a stroll.
So my data basically stays put, but what are things like notifications, or if I want to integrate with other tools?
That's where they've struck a really smart balance. They understand that for a tool like this to be truly useful, it needs to connect with the outside world, but in a secure and controlled way.
So what's their solution?
They allow limited, very specific connections to automation for Jira. This lets you set up custom notifications so you're instantly alerted if something is flagged. And you can get pretty creative with integrations. For example, imagine PII Protection spots a potential issue and then automatically sends a message to your security team's Slack channel.
Okay, I'm already seeing the potential here. Well, but let's get specific. You mentioned healthcare earlier. Can you walk me through a real-world scenario of how this would play out in a hospital setting?
Absolutely. Imagine a hospital using Jira to manage patient requests or track incident reports. These issues could easily contain sensitive information like names, medical record numbers, even details about treatments. You know how serious HIPAA violations are?
Oh, absolutely. One wrong move with patient data and you're looking at massive fines and a PR nightmare.
Exactly. But with PII Protection Standing Guard, they can rest a bit easier. They could set it up to automatically spot those medical record numbers. And here's the best part. If something is flagged, the tool could redact the sensitive info right away, flag the issue for their privacy officer, and even ping their incident management system, all automatically.
Wow, that's like having a whole security team working around the clock but without the extra payroll. It makes you realize how vulnerable that data is. without this kind of protection.
You hit the nail on the head. And it's not just about hospitals. Think about financial institutions. They live and breathe sensitive data. Credit card numbers, bank details, those algorithms they use to make trading decisions, it's all prime target for a breach.
And we all know the stakes are incredibly high for them. PCI DSS compliance is no joke.
Right. So picture this. A financial firm uses PII protection for Jira and sets it up to recognize those critical data types. If an employee accidentally posts a client's credit card number in an issue, the tool could spring into action, automatically redacting the number, alerting the compliance team, and even generating an incident ticket in their system, all before anyone even realizes a mistake was made.
It's like having that digital guardian angel watching over your shoulder, ready to catch those slip-ups before they become disasters. Speaking of catching things, you mentioned this tool integrates with automation for Jira. Can you unpack that a bit more?
This is where things get really interesting. Remember those custom actions we talked about? The integration with automation for Jira supercharges those, letting you create these really sophisticated workflows to address potential issues.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but I need an example to really grasp this. Walk me through a scenario.
Okay, so let's say PII Protection detects a social security number in a Jira issue comment. With automation for Jira, you can set up this domino effect of actions. First, it could instantly redact that number so no one else sees it. Then, it could automatically change the issue's status to security review, which acts as a big red flag for everyone involved.
Got it. So it's containing the issue and making it clear that something needs attention.
Exactly. But it doesn't stop there. The automation could also assign the issue directly to your security team, maybe even create a dedicated Slack channel for them to discuss it and notify relevant stakeholders via email, all without anyone having to lift a finger.
So it's taking care of that initial response, making sure the right people are looped in, and those critical first steps are taken immediately.
Exactly. And the best part is you're not stuck with some generic response plan. You get to tailor these automation rules to your organization's exact needs and policies. It's about having that peace of mind knowing things are being handled the way you want them to be, even when you're not looking.
Okay, this is blowing my mind a bit. So you're saying even someone with a basic understanding of logic and workflows can set up these automated responses.
Absolutely. You don't have to be a tech wizard to leverage the power of automation. And that's what makes the combination of PII protection and automation for Jira so powerful. It gives organizations of all sizes and technical capabilities the tools they need to implement these really sophisticated data loss prevention strategies.
It's about leveling the playing field, making enterprise-grade security accessible to everyone.
Exactly. It's about empowering everyone to take control of their data security, regardless of their technical background or budget.
Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about another powerful feature of PII protection, the site scan. Now we've talked about continuous real-time scanning, but this seems different. Can you explain what it is and why it matters?
Think of the site scan feature as a deep clean for your data. It's not just about catching things as they happen, it's about proactively seeking out any sensitive information that might be lurking in the shadows. Those things that might have slipped through the cracks.
Okay, I like the sound of that. It's like that extra layer of assurance, making sure you haven't missed anything. So how does it work?
Let's say you just finished a big project with a lot of sensitive data involved. Instead of scanning your entire Jira instance, you could focus the site scan solely on that project, zeroing in on the areas with the highest risk.
So it's about being strategic with your resources, focusing your efforts where they matter most.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper. Remember those data profiles we talked about? You can use those to fine-tune your site scans as well.
Okay, I'm picking up on a theme here. So if I'm primarily concerned about credit card numbers being accidentally exposed, I can tell the site scan to look only for those.
You got it. This means you're not wasting time flagging things that aren't a priority, and you're making sure those critical pieces of information are truly locked down. And once the scan is complete, you get a detailed report showing exactly what was found, where it was found, and who has access to it.
Okay, reports are great, but I'm all about actionable insights. What can I actually do with that information?
Think of the report as your data security to-do list. It gives you the information you need to take action, whether that's redacting the data, changing permissions, or even deleting it entirely, depending on your organization's policies. It's like having a roadmap to guide your data security efforts.
It's about turning data into action, which is what data security is all about. But it's not just about putting out fires, right? You mentioned something earlier about using site scan to actually inform your overall data security strategy. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. One of the most powerful aspects of the site scan is its ability to reveal patterns and trends in your data handling practices. Let's say you run regular site scans and notice that a particular team or project is consistently popping up with potential issues.
That's a huge red flag. It tells you something needs to change.
Exactly. Maybe they need more training on data security best practices, or perhaps their workflows need to be adjusted to minimize the risk of accidental exposure. The site scan can give you that bird's eye view of your data landscape, helping you identify those areas where you might be unknowingly vulnerable.
It's like having that early warning system, allowing you to address potential problems before they escalate.
Precisely. It's about shifting from a reactive to a proactive security posture, which is essential in today's ever-evolving threat landscape. We've talked a lot about the technical aspects of PII protection, but we can't overlook the privacy implications. After all, we're discussing a tool that has access to incredibly sensitive information. It's only natural to wonder how my privacy and the privacy of my users is being protected.
You took the words right out of my mouth. It feels like we need to address the elephant in the room. Privacy concerns. I imagine this is something that comes up a lot, especially for organizations that handle really sensitive information.
You're absolutely right. It's a huge concern, and it's one that Polymatus takes very seriously. They've been very transparent about how they've designed PII protection to prioritize privacy, both for organizations and the individuals whose data is being scanned.
Okay, I'm listening. Transparency is key, especially when we're talking about something as sensitive as data security. So how do they approach it? What kind of safeguards have they put in place?
One of the core principles behind PII protection is this idea of data minimization. They've designed the tool to collect and process only the absolute minimum amount of data needed to do its job. It's not about indiscriminately gathering everything in sight. It's about being very targeted in what it accesses and analyzes.
So it's not this like data-hungry monster that some people might fear it is.
It's not at all. It respects data boundaries. And here's another crucial aspect. All the data processing happens locally within your own Jira Cloud instance.
So my data is not being shipped off to some remote server in the cloud.
Nope. It stays put under your control. That's a big win for privacy.
They're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk when it comes to privacy.
Exactly. They're demonstrating that you don't have to sacrifice privacy for security. You can have both.
And that's a powerful message, especially in today's data-driven world. It's refreshing to see a company taking privacy so seriously, especially in this day and age where data is kind of treated like a commodity.
It's not just about checking boxes for compliance anymore. Organizations are realizing that respecting user privacy is not just, good ethics, it's good business. People are more likely to trust you with their data if they know you're going the extra mile to protect it.
Absolutely. It builds that trust that's so crucial in today's digital landscape. We've covered a ton of ground today, from the nitty-gritty of how PII protection works to the broader picture of data security and privacy. As we wrap up this deep dive, any final thoughts you want to leave our listener with? What's the key takeaway here?
It's easy to get caught up in all the bells and whistles of these security tools, but remember, the human element is still the most important factor.
So even with the most sophisticated tech in place, we're still our own worst enemies.
Sometimes, yeah. Think of it this way. You could have the Fort Knox of Jira security set up, but if someone accidentally posts a sensitive document in the wrong channel or falls for a phishing scam, that tech can only do so much.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about the people using it.
Exactly. Don't underestimate the power of good old-fashioned security awareness training for your team. Make sure everyone understands the importance of data security best practices, how to spot potential risks, and what to do if something seems off.
It's about building that human firewall, that collective awareness that's so crucial in today's digital landscape.
Exactly. And don't forget, technology should empower, not intimidate. PII protection is a perfect example. It gives you control over your data security in a way that's both powerful and easy to manage.
Couldn't agree more. A huge thank you to our expert for sharing their incredible insights today, and to you, our listener. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of PII protection for Jira. We hope you found it informative and feel empowered to take your data security to the next level. Until next time, stay curious.